On this Friday night, a life sentence for serial killer Bruce McArthur. He'll be at least 91 before he can apply for parole.
I'm substantially certain that he's never coming out of jail.
I do not see Bruce McArthur seeing daylight.
The judge calling McArthur's crimes pure evil. Plus,
the glass broken everywhere. 3 times it happened. The police came, they didn't do anything.
business owners are fed up after a string of break-ins at a Scarborough mall. And the TTC is launching a campaign it really shouldn't have to, telling riders the dangers of hopping on the tracks. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Bruce McArthur finally knows his final sentence tonight. No chance of parole for 25 years. That was actually the minimum sentence handed down to him today, nearly a decade since the first of his 8 murder victims went missing. John Lancaster was in the courtroom as the serial killer learned his fate.
For the friends and families of the lost, it's likely no sentence was good enough. Certainly, they wanted more.
I was a friend of Andrew's for a while, and I not only lost Andrew, I lost Dean, and I lost my friend Salim as well. Losing 3 friends and killing 8 victims and having a life sentence for that isn't enough. It's not enough for the families, it's not enough for the lives lost, and it's so not enough for the community.
Inside the court, Justice John McMahon described McArthur as pure evil, morally bankrupt. He lured his innocent victims under the pretext of consensual sex. The victims were not only used for his gratification in life, but in death. These men did not die a quick and painless death. Noting McArthur kept gruesome photographs of the 8 men he bound and strangled with ligatures. He scattered their remains in a garbage bin and flower planters at this home where McArthur had worked as a landscaper. The judge also noted some of the men were targeted because they were vulnerable, like Karushna Kanagaratnam, who went underground after his refugee application was denied. His family still doesn't know how McArthur came into contact with him.
He only came here to save his life, but he's not with him, not with them. So they feel how it's happened. No, nobody know, no answer. Because they said the serial killer, he didn't say anything about that, so they don't know.
The court heard the crimes have devastated many in Toronto's LGBTQ community. After all, McArthur stalked them for 7 years. Finally, he was linked to this fan that was spotted picking up the 8th victim, Andrew Kinsman, in the summer of 2017.
These are unique and horrific events, and they stick with people for a long time. I think we will have to work hard and work affirmatively to regain the sense of security we feel in our community, the sense of trust we have in one another, but we've got to do that work.
For his part, McArthur made no apologies. He's remorseless, said the judge, and would have killed a 9th man who was found confined in McArthur's apartment when police burst through his door. Friends and family say they're also upset about the sentence because if McArthur does survive 25 years in prison and he does apply for parole, well, they may have to deal with him one more time. John Lancaster, CBC News, Toronto.
The Toronto police investigation into McArthur attracted a lot of criticism and prompted a review into how the police handled missing persons cases. But today, Toronto's police chief says he stands by what his officers did. Alex Chasson has that part of our coverage tonight.
It's still a life sentence. The only difference is the parole eligibility. And as Justice McMahon said, he can't imagine a parole board ever letting Mr. McArthur out, even if by some fluke he lives to the age of 91. We don't expect to see Mr. McArthur in public again. We're satisfied with the sentence.
McArthur's sentencing bookends the long, gruesome serial killer investigation, but questions still linger about how long it took to arrest him.
We knew something stunk, and we did everything we could to find it, and we just didn't.
Especially considering McArthur was arrested in 2016 for an attempted choking incident. Toronto police officer Paul Gauthier is facing disciplinary action for his release. McArthur would go on to commit 2 more murders.
It wasn't until late January of last year when we had that tangible connection.
As the primary investigator, I support the chief.
Detective Dave Dickinson cracked the case thanks to one of the murder victims themselves, Andrew Kinsman.
He left the name of his killer on his calendar.
Kinsman was last seen alive on June 26, 2017. When police searched his apartment for clues, they saw the name Bruce written on his calendar on that date. Police believe MacArthur killed Kinsman the night the two drove off in MacArthur's red van. When MacArthur was arrested in January, police found a man who went by the name of John bound to the bed in imminent danger.
I don't want to talk about John for his privacy. We acted, we did what we were trained to do, and it worked out.
Among the things we may never know.
Again, we do not know where the dismemberments took place.
Police don't know whether his victims were dismembered in his van, inside his apartment, or at the Leaside home where he stored his landscaping equipment. That could suggest the man behind bars wasn't talking much.
The conversations that I've had with Bruce MacArthur, I want to keep private right now. I will continue to strive to bring answers and closure to some of the questions that people have.
The public inquiry into how the Toronto police conduct missing persons cases is also ongoing. Now that the case is out of the courts, the committee in charge of the review can now get that investigation into their scope. And of course, there is also that ongoing repair work of the relationship between the Toronto police and the Church and Wellesley community here, which despite all of this darkness, continues to shine bright in pride. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
We can report that the heat and water is back on for those residents of 280 Wellesley Street we told you about last night. The city shut off their apartment building's power Tuesday to do an emergency safety inspection. It took until this morning to fix a potentially dangerous fault in the electrical panel. That inspection and repair was prompted by recent incidents at 260 Wellesley and 650 Parliament. All three properties are owned by the same company. Cold just hearing that sound. You had to hold on to your hats today. It was windy out there. Toronto and much of the province under a special weather statement today for strong winds and blowing snow. Meteorologist Nick Zerkovich is here with his first look at the forecast. No escaping the winds tonight if you head outside. Lucky to be standing upright.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Mike. Winds throughout the day today gusting about 70, 80 kilometers per hour in some places. Down around the Niagara region, wind gusts up to about 100 kilometers per hour. No relief in the near term. It's not going to be until tomorrow evening where we see some relief. Wind gusts continue through the morning hours tomorrow. That's going to drop the wind chill to close to -20. And then by tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at winds lightening up just a little bit. Forecast for tonight down to -11, wind chill of -20. -4 for the afternoon, wind chill of -10. The potential for a big storm next Tuesday. I'll have full details on that coming up.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
You bet.
Well, we're hearing tonight from some frustrated shop owners at a small mall near Finch and McCowan. Now, even though it has security, the mall has been broken into 3 times in less than a year. Some stores hit twice in 2 months. As Hawaii Fidel tells us, the owners are saying enough is enough.
It's business as usual for MJS Gold House tonight, just a day after their store was robbed.
This is the second time, and it's kind of ridiculous.
Security camera footage from early Thursday morning shows 2 people inside the store stuffing a duffel bag with anything they can find. Here you see them smashing a glass window leading to the back office using a crowbar. Owners say the 2 suspects got away with at least $4,000 in cash and another $2,000 worth of watches.
This is a mall, and we have 3 other stores here, and we thought it would be very secure.
Store owners tell me this is the 3rd time that this mall has been broken into since last year. Once in April 2018, another time in December, and then again just a few nights ago. This store was robbed all 3 times, but some were luckier than others. Nothing was taken from this store, only the walls are damaged. This owner had his shop broken into in December. He says he's worried for his safety.
I'm a small business owner, and I'm just worried about how to run the business.
Toronto police say they are aware of the situation and are actively investigating.
Given the circumstances and the fact that it is not the first time that it happened, so of course we are appealing to the public.
But for Justin and his family, peace of mind is their main priority.
Money isn't the concern, it's more of a safety and like just being able to sleep at night well.
Police say they're looking for at least 2 suspects. They're asking anybody with information to contact police. Hawaii Fidel, CBC News, Toronto.
And an early morning shooting outside a nightclub near Queen and Parliament has left one man dead. As Natalie Nanowski tells us, it's not the first shooting at a club at that location, and that has neighbors concerned.
I know it's a club and everything, but at the same time, you never know what could hit at what time. And that being done, and then the entire area was cordoned off, it makes you feel like kind of threatened in your own area.
Police were called to Queen and Parliament around 2 this morning. Shots were fired outside this nightclub.
Our officers were in the area and got here fairly quickly, and they discovered a male who had been shot lying on the street in front of a premise. The ambulances arrived shortly thereafter and provided emergency medical treatment to the victim. Unfortunately, he was beyond medical help and he was pronounced dead at the scene.
The victim was shot at close range, several times in the head. Many of the club goers called 911 and waited outside to provide statements to police. Siobhan Sinsel was on her way to work to open the coffee shop a few doors down. It's the second time she's seen her block taped off as a crime scene.
Last shooting was similarly outside on the street. I actually feel really sad that this is what's going on in my city.
That shooting was in 2016. At the time, the club was called Fuse. A 27-year-old man was shot outside. He then wandered a few blocks to a nearby gas station, where he died. Since then, people in the area say there have been a few instances of violence.
At the same bar, I don't think a shooting had happened, but it was a gun violence though.
A car was removed from the scene this morning, but police aren't saying if it was related to the shooting.
We ran that car's plates and found out that it was a rental, and it was rented out by a woman in Shelburne, Ontario. That's about 2 hours north of Toronto, but unfortunately we can't tell you much else, just that police are still investigating. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, coming up, this should be obvious, but the TTC is reminding subway riders tracks are for trains, not for commuters who drop their cell phones. Today, they launched a public awareness campaign. I'll tell you about that after the break. A state of emergency is in place tonight for residents of Chatham, Kent. Flooding is taking place in a number of areas due to an ice jam on the Thames River and the failure of a dike. Emergency officials are going door to door trying to notify residents of the possibility of flooding. As I was heading home on the subway last night, I got word of yet another service delay because someone was on the tracks. The TTC says trespassing incidents like that cost commuters a total of 26 hours in delays last year. Not to mention, hopping off the platform to pick something up could be deadly. So now the TTC has launched a new campaign to teach what should be pretty obvious. Tracks are for trains. Greg Ross goes underground for that story.
It's a concerning trend at subway stations around the city.
We had over 100 incidents of people who were at track level last year who shouldn't have been.
TTC spokesperson Haley Waldman says there are a variety of reasons why people are doing this. In some cases, they end up on the wrong platform and cross to catch a train on the other side, or they may simply want to retrieve something they've dropped, like a cell phone.
We really want to underscore that your phone is not worth your life. Nothing is, and we don't want anyone going to track level for any reason. It is incredibly dangerous.
In addition to the risk of being hit by an incoming train, a person could also be electrocuted if they come in contact with the third rail, which is the power source for subway trains.
How many volts of electricity are there?
It's 600 volts.
Not surprisingly, most riders we talk to say it's not worth the risk.
That's crazy. So dumb.
It's so scary, actually.
It's a very real death threat.
But this man admits he would consider it.
If I needed it bad enough, I think I may go get my cell phone, as long as I know there's no train coming.
There may not be trains, but there are cameras. All subway stations are monitored at this TTC operations center.
What happens when somebody here sees somebody jumping onto the track?
Yeah, so in that case, we need to cut traction power immediately. That means that the subway trains stop wherever they are in the tunnels. That means that there's a number of backup traffic. There are a lot of customers who are inconvenienced.
Last year, there were more than 26 hours of delays caused by people jumping onto the track. 2 years ago, this Toronto man walked onto TTC tracks while trying to make a viral video, but it cost him in the end. He was charged and fined.
There are fines up to $5,000 that customers who go to track level can face.
Waldman says if a person does drop something on the track, they should ask a staff member for help. She says there are intercoms on every platform that connect directly to TTC staff. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Here in the beach, this intersection of Queen and Elmer holds a special significance to a certain crossing guard and also dozens of parents and kids. I'm Tally Ricci, and coming up, we'll introduce you to a beloved member of this community.
Hey Marie, how are you? All right, high five. Have a great one, guys.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
A Toronto community is getting ready to say goodbye to a popular local crossing guard. Paul Bellia has been a staple in the beach for the last 4 years. Now he's moving on to train a new batch of crossing guards. Talia Ricci joins him on one of his last days on duty.
So this is where it all began. Okay, hey Grace. Yeah, Grace, how are you? Nice, that was a good one. Hey, cool. All right, high five. Have a great one, guys. I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, and even if I'm tired, I think, I'm gonna give the kids a high five. Oh yeah, who wants a GoPro high five? Oh yeah. Knowing that my salutes, my high fives, my hellos makes a difference in their life is just an incredible thing each morning to think of.
Best crossing guard, Paul. And tell me about the last 4 years that you've spent as a crossing guard here.
It's been a process of meeting people, expanding my repertoire. I never remember people's names. Now I remember hundreds of people's names. I don't even know how I do it. I haven't even realized the full potential of growth that I've experienced while I've been here.
Were you confident in the ability to do this job when you started, or did it surprise you how good you were at it?
I didn't know what I was in for. I thought, how hard could it be lifting a stop sign and walking out into traffic? That's not the part that's surprising. The part was opening up, talking to people, creating probably and hopefully permanent friendships out of this. Hard to believe, but I've been a very shy guy. And so you ask anybody here and they're like, Paul, no, he's not shy, he's extroverted. That's what this job has really helped do to me. Too, yeah, buddy.
I think we all really appreciate him because he honestly gets to know our kids. It makes me feel safe letting my son now walk home alone, knowing that someone's watching out for him.
Oh, it's not my last day yet. I'm here next week, too.
Really?
Yeah, but thank you. That's incredible. Oh, come here, buddy. We get into an elevator with people, with strangers, and none of us, we all pretend to be busy and look at something else. And that could happen here, too. You could be standing right side by side waiting for the light to turn. Or, as I've learned over the last 4 years, I could turn to them and say something. Way to work it, G-Man. See you, buddy. We'll see you tomorrow. See you, Avery. Ben, where's Maddie? Are you going for a play date? Just that act of making that first initial connection with someone else, that's one of the most vital things that I think we can do as citizens. Bye-bye, have a good day. Hey, Eliza.
Nick is back with his extended forecast. Windy night overnight, but you're looking at something that could be blowing in on Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So, I mean, if you think today was a storm, Tuesday may very well be an even bigger storm system. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment here because the potential for a lot of snow and or mixed snow rain. For now, what we're dealing with, though, with the cold temperatures and the winds coming off of the water, is just snow squalls. Those snow squalls will continue off Lake Huron and Georgian Bay through tonight. By tomorrow morning, they start to peter out as the winds also begin to die down as well. And then by the afternoon, mainly sunny conditions, although the risk for a few flurries early in the day. By Sunday, another system just poking into southwestern Ontario will bring with it some cloud cover and also with it a few flurries as well. Now that's Sunday. We'll get to Tuesday in just a moment. Let's talk about tonight first. In southwestern Ontario, wind chills down to minus 22, minus 14 is the actual temperature we're looking at in the Windsor area. By tomorrow, not much better than what you had today, minus 5 degrees, although with the wind, it'll feel closer to about minus 10. The wind's dying off a little bit through tomorrow. Mainly sunny skies down in southwestern Ontario. For the Golden Horseshoe, we're looking at temperatures tonight down to minus 11, wind chills about minus 20. By the time we hit tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at temperatures in the minus 4 to minus 5 range. Winds lightening up as well, as you can see there. Wind chills by the afternoon, about minus 10. In the morning, though, still about minus 18. Now, we talked about the storm system, so I'm fast forwarding here. As we move through Sunday, these are the flurries that I was talking about. That's fairly short-lived. Some areas might see a couple centimeters of snow, but really this is the one we're tracking. Now, the timing of this thing is really anybody's guess. Models vary dramatically with this, but there is a potential for a lot of snow, followed by, in this case, a rain-snow mix, followed by snow again into Wednesday. If this system shifts a little further south, it'll be an all-snow event. If it shifts a little further north, it'll be an all-rain event. So we'll watch that as we get closer. But for now, here's a look in your long-range forecast. Minus 4, minus 5 through the weekend. Monday doesn't look too bad at minus 4. Tuesday, though, as I mentioned, the one to watch. Mike.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nick.
You bet.
Welcome back. Yesterday, you may recall the Maple Leafs. They held a practice on the skating rink outside of Nathan Phillips Square at City Hall. Well, that must have inspired those who work inside City Hall. Today, city staff faced off against a group of city councillors for a game of shinny.
You just stay here and just talk to me for a minute. Okay, guys, go and start.
Here I am. Yeah. We are going to take this game.
Okay.
Because if we don't win, we don't pass the budget.
Well, those are high stakes. Mayor Tory coached his councillors from the sidelines in the first ever second floor versus city staff shinny challenge. Participants got out from behind their desks, laced up, and hit the ice at Nathan Phillips Square. In the end, well, it didn't go Joe Cressy's way. Staff won the game 8-3. Don't know what that means for the city budget. Take a look at this stunning shot shared on the CBC News Instagram account, taken by one of our own here at CBC, Jeff Z. It shows a tugboat crashing through the iced over Toronto Harbour as the city skyline stands proudly in the background. Jeff says he waited a good half hour for the boat to get in just the right position. Patience that certainly paid off. How can I put a heart on that? That's our newscast for tonight. Before we go, a reminder of a subway closure on Line 1 this weekend between Lawrence and St. Clair Station. It's all part of the Eglinton Crosstown construction. Have a great weekend. I'll see you again on Monday. Good night.